What's going on, Cheat Code Sports Fantasy Football Podcast listeners? You got Kevin Stevie P coming at you. What's going on, Steve?
What's going on, Kev? What's going on, world?
What's going on, everyone? So today we're going to get into news, and then we're going to break down another listener league, one that Steve actually did by himself this time. So yeah, should be another interesting podcast, another bashing of some teams, and congratulating others on a good draft. So let's just get into the news right off the bat, shall we?
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, so we are going to start it off with Cardinals coach Cliff Kingsbury. He still believes third-year pro Christian Kirk is an ascending player. Yep, I think we both agree. Yep. The Athletics' Vic Tafur expects Josh Jacobs to easily double his 2009 receptions total from 2020. From 20. I'm sorry. So he had 20 catches last year. They're expecting him to double that. If he gets 40 catches, he's going to be a beast.
Yep, and I'm thinking he's going to get more than that, honestly. I think 40 is probably easy for him to get if he's going to be the main focus of that offense. So I have him penciled in for like 50 catches this year.
So the Athletics' Vic Tafur reports Marcus Mariota has been no threat to Derek Carr's starting status. So it looks like Derek Carr will be the starter going into week one of the Raiders season.
Yep. Could have called that one.
Let's see. Miami Herald reports number 5 overall pick Tua Tagovailoa has not done enough to inject himself into the starting battle. So it looks like, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the starter to begin the year.
Yep, we called that one too.
Yep. The Athletics' Jeff Howe reports Devin Asiasi's blocking has really stood out. We reported that he was doing, pretty much everything a couple weeks ago. So, definitely a player you want to watch with the tight end situation going, in fantasy. Mm-hmm. The Miami Herald's Adam Beasley has been impressed with Preston Williams' performance through the first 6 days of Dolphins practices open to the media. Preston Williams.
Yep, I'm real high on that guy. I don't know. I'm not going to go any further into Preston Williams. I've been bashing the table for that guy all offseason, so.
The Athletics' Jeff Zrebiec reports every practice seems to bring another highlight reel submission from second rounder J.K. Dobbins. The other day, I believe we reported that J.K. Dobbins is fighting to be the number 2 back. So, yep. I'm higher on Mark Ingram. You guys know that if you listen. So this kind of stuff does not change my opinion.
Nope.
ESPN's John Kime reports Alex Smith has not shown yet he's in a position to really challenge for Washington's quarterback job. I'm just going to say Dwayne Haskins will probably be their starter. He was a first-round draft pick last year, and they're going to have to see what they got. So I don't see them not going with Dwayne Haskins, to start the season.
He would have to be really, really bad for them to be like, yeah, we're going to go back to the guy whose leg completely snapped in half and has basically gone through a hell of an ordeal to get back even to play. They would have to really see something that was glaring to them that they were like, this dude is just not NFL caliber.
Yep. Browns' second-round safety Grant Delpit was carted off on Tuesday with an apparent Achilles tendon injury. That sucks for him.
Yep. Earl Thomas is available.
Yeah. ESPN's Mike Reese reports Jarrett Stidham is fading out of the Patriots quarterback race. Kind of knew that was going to be the case once Cam took over.
Yeah, come on, man. That wasn't a competition. We all know Cam. Cam was going to win that the day he signed.
Yep. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports Tyrell Williams has been diagnosed with a torn labrum, but that the receiver will attempt to play through the injury. That's going to be painful. And with the news of Brian Edwards and, the other options that they have there with Ruggs now, Hunter Renfrow still being there, that it's going to be tough for Tyrell Williams if he's dealing with this kind of injury.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with what we've seen and heard out of, Las Vegas camp with, Brian Edwards just being a guy that everyone is taking second looks at. I mean, I've just heard it over and over that, this entire offseason, every time this kid makes a play, Carr is looking over at Gruden and going, like, ooh, we got something here. So, I definitely like this kid a lot. And, when you try to play through an injury, most of the time it's because you don't want to lose your job, especially when a guy comes in and is showing a little something. So, for me, I think this has more to do that, you don't want to lose that job. So we'll have to see what's going on.
All right. Kenyon Drake was spotted in a walking boot after practice today. He tweeted out that he was good, but, being in a walking boot is never a good sign for your starting running back.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds.
Yep. Deontay Johnson has missed the last 5 days of practice with a leg injury. Definitely something you're going to want to keep an eye on if you, think that he's going to be a breakout player.
Mm-hmm.
T. Higgins has a hamstring injury, but was back at practice on Monday. I think, was it him? I think that when him and AJ Green, I think both kind of came out the same day.
Yeah.
And no new news on AJ, so.
No.
Bengals reporter Ben Baby called Auden Tate the early front runner for offensive MVP of training camp. I actually seen that heard that Joe Burrow was looking for him a lot, even to the point where he threw a 2-minute drill touchdown pass to him. In warm-ups. They ran a 2-minute drill against the first team offense, and it ended with an Auden Tate touchdown. So, definitely another guy that could be, deep sleeper, wind up, being a guy you pick up off the waiver wire.
Yeah, we kind of talked about Auden Tate last year, and I remember saying that I actually like his game. I think he's, a big body receiver that kind of does what AJ does without the same amount of pizzazz. A guy that can get open, and he showed it last year. He was one of the main targets of that team last year with AJ going down and John Ross going down, and, Tyler Boyd and Auden Tate kind of held down that role as, the 1 and 2 guy. So, if Auden Tate gets thrust into that role, we know he can perform. So, definitely a guy to keep an eye on if they're not happy with T. Higgins and AJ once again can't stay healthy.
Yep. Melvin Gordon was back practicing today. Good news for him. David Montgomery said he slimmed down over the offseason and now weighs 218 pounds.
Oh, boy.
Doesn't bother me at all. Doesn't change my opinion. I think that maybe he's quicker. That might help him, but I just still think the offensive line is not very good. So especially in the run blocking scheme, and I don't think Matt Nagy's offense has a good run blocking scheme. He hasn't had one of them running backs average 4 yards a carry yet.
Yep.
Saints released Nigel Bradham today. The only reason I'm saying this is because I think a week ago he was quoted as saying it was nice to be in a winning organization after winning a damn Super Bowl with Philly 3 years ago. So kiss my ass. Enjoy your free agency. Mike Williams, wide receiver for the Chargers, has been diagnosed with a sprained shoulder and is considered week to week. He came down on it. Looked like his collarbone might have been broke, but instead, looked like it wound up being intact. But his shoulder was just, kind of messed up.
Yep.
Joe Mixon was not practicing today. That should be something to keep an eye on, considering he was, a holdout, possibility. But, Also because if he's injured, you're, definitely going to want to know that a guy going in the first round or a potential first round pick is not practicing because of injury.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen back at practice today. The whole COVID thing with, you know, false positives coming through this over the weekend, and I think there was a crazy amount of numbers, like 23,000 tests that they've done on players, and none of them have come back positive officially. But there's been a lot of false positives. So who this thing is this. I believe there's a lot of false negatives as well. Like I just think our testing system in America is kind of screwed. So, who knows what's going to happen as the season progresses with COVID-19.
Yep, gotta keep your ears open.
Yep. Chiefs GM Brett Veach said CEH is on pace to have a big year to be our primary ball carrier. There you go. Heard it from the general manager, right out of his mouth.
Yep.
Washington defensive end Chase Young has missed 4 practices with a hip flexor. So that is definitely something you're going to pay attention to if you think that the Washington defense is going to be good. Right, Steve?
Yes, sir.
ESPN's Adam Schefter said Lamar Jackson will return to practice on Monday. He's been dealing with a groin injury. Definitely not something that you want to hear from Lamar, with, his ability to run. That's the thing that makes him the weapon that he is. So if this is going to wind up dialing back any of his potential running, his fantasy numbers are probably going to go down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Rams head coach Sean McVay said Darrell Henderson suffered a mild hamstring injury, but the team hopes to have him back for week 1. Darrell Henderson will not be the starting running back for the Rams if he is not practicing until week 1.
Yep.
Eagles beat writer Bo Wolf said J.J. Arcega-Whiteside has stood out in team practices and looks sharper than he did last season.
The kid has the talent. He just... I don't know what the hell his problem was last year.
The Packers, this is actually one of the Packers want Marquez Valdes-Scantling to be the number 2 receiver behind Devontae Adams because he brings game-breaking speed to the offense. So all those Allen Lazard, breakout candidate guys, definitely going to want to pay attention to that one.
Yeah, MVS sucks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think so too.
MVS
But
sucks. Yeah, I mean, we saw, like, how many times you guys see this guy on the field and see him not do anything to realize that he's just not what they wanted, out of that draft. And don't get me wrong, like, hey, could he develop into something? I'll never say that there's a guy in the NFL that can't develop into something, because guess what? All these guys are extremely good athletes, like really, really good, the top-notch athletes in the world. So is it possible that something happens to make him better? Yeah, but it's between the ears with this kid. Like, he just, I don't know what it is. He has the speed and the body type that you want for, especially an NFL wide receiver, but I don't know what the hell this kid's problem is. You watch him on tape and he's just like, I don't know. He just has the worst time getting open. When he is open, he drops passes. It's just, it is what it is.
Packers beat writer Jim something said rookie running back A.J. Dillon's role could change during the season, but he doesn't expect major usage in the early going. Everybody drafting A.J. Dillon, remember that, because he's going to have to leapfrog not just, Jamal Williams, but then he's going to leapfrog Aaron Jones. So if both of those guys are healthy, there's a good chance A.J. Dillon doesn't even see time this year, and he's, a guy a lot of people are high on, or a lot of people are drafting. He's being drafted before Jamal Williams.
Yeah, and you got to remember how good Aaron Jones was as a goal line guy last year. Aaron Jones was the goal line guy last year.
There's no reason to take Aaron Jones out of that role.
No,
he scored 18 touchdowns last year,
yes.
And the reason why is because he's so good on the goal line.
Yep, he's really something else inside the 5. especially for a guy his size. You wouldn't expect him to be able to do the things he does, and he just always seems to be able to squirt in that end zone, which, for me, I had him in a bunch of spots last year, and I remember just thinking, dude, like, he's just scoring at will. Like, especially in that Cowboys game. That Cowboys game was great. 4 touchdowns. It was 4 touchdowns. Yeah, I was like, dude, this guy is just an animal.
All right. Brandon Ayuk pulled up, running a deep route, pulled up, grabbed the back of his leg, did not return to practice. I believe that was yesterday. That was Sunday night, or Sunday's practice.
That's definitely something that is really newsworthy, a worrisome newsworthy story, because, the 49ers are real quick running out of wide receivers, man. Like, this is starting to get ridiculous. Like, everyone is hurting. With the 49ers, every year you hear the curse of the Super Bowl runner-up. How the Super Bowl runner-up always, the following season just has a terrible year. And if you think about, like, all the guys that have happened to it, it really is a thing. The Panthers, remember Cam Newton, MVP season, amazing. The following year, I think they went 7-9.
Patriots won the Super Bowl a year after.
Yeah, Patriots, but the Patriots are. The Patriots are just.
They
don't
line up with that.
Yeah, they don't line up with that. But every other team seems to have issues, especially those teams that come out of nowhere. Like, nobody expected the 49ers to be in the Super Bowl last year. I definitely expected them to be a playoff team. I was talking about it before the season started, that I thought they'd be a playoff team, but I would have never even imagined that they were going to get into the Super Bowl. I definitely would not have called them a Super Bowl team before the beginning of next season. So, that's a little worrisome for me.
And last thing that we can bring up is the Earl Thomas situation. If you've seen the video, he got beat on a play. The opposite safety kind of called him out on it. They got, when it had a heated argument on the sideline. Apparently, Earl Thomas, threw hands, threw a punch at him. I don't know, but the Ravens, like, what did they what's the word I'm looking for?
Conduct detrimental.
They canceled his contract due to conduct detrimental to the team. So now Earl Thomas is a free agent, huh?
Yeah, Earl Thomas is winning that grievance. There's no way. Yeah, it isn't. How many times? To me, they were just looking for an excuse to get rid of Earl Thomas.
I don't know though. There was a lot of. They were saying that they had a leadership committee on the team, and the team didn't want Earl. The leadership amongst the players didn't want Earl Thomas around. They could be putting things out there about him, but maybe Earl Thomas just wanted to bounce. He didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, maybe. And I agree with that. But this is my thing. If you're gonna cut a guy for throwing a punch, dude, how many? I don't know about you guys.
There's a ton of
dude.
I watch every training camp.
Dude, if you watch Hard Knocks for as long as I have, I've literally watched Hard Knocks since the Ravens year 1. I have never missed a Hard Knocks. And every season on Hard Knocks, every single season, there's punches thrown and offensive linemen pulling other guys' helmets off and throwing them to the ground, and guys get into fights. Football's a contact sport. You, Kev, we've played football. You get heated out there. You get mad. Something happens. You get pissed off. You get your testosterone going, and you throw some punches. It is what it is. To have cut him and said conduct detrimental to the team, to me, they're just trying to stop him from making his money, and they're not going to win that, man. There's no way. A couple years ago when the Browns were on there, Jarvis Landry threw hands with I can't even remember what corner it was. It was one of their corners, threw him to the ground. They were playing, not taking guys to the ground. They told everybody, hey, nobody goes to the ground today. We're just, running through, blah, blah, blah. And the guy grabbed him and kind of roughly threw him to the ground, and Jarvis jumped up, got in his face, threw a punch at him, and I didn't hear nothing about, oh, we're going to cut Jarvis Landry. That wasn't even a thing.
Yep. All right. So now we're going to get into this third listener league that Steve did. Steve did this one by himself. I was not a part of this one. So, Steve, why don't you read off the teams? I have the picture that you sent me of what these teams look like. I'll be able to, get in there and hop in there with you on these opinions. So,
all right.
Go ahead. Why don't you read them off?
All right. So we got Belichick's hoodie. So Belichick's hoodie took Christian McCaffrey, Kenny Galladay, Le'Veon Bell, DJ Chark, Kareem Hunt, Kyler Murray, Jordan Howard, Jamison Crowder, Mike Gesicki, Justin Jefferson, Dallas Goedert, Duke Johnson, the Buffalo Bills defense, Larry Fitzgerald, and Robbie Gould. I like this team. I think you're basically solid everywhere. You're hurting at the tight end, but not really, because my second tight end, I don't know if I'm taking Dallas Goedert as my second tight end, because I just don't think
Higbee was still there.
Yeah, you know what I mean. There was
Higbee was
still
drafted
there.
right after Goddard, so I would have
Exactly.
definitely taken Higbee over Goddard.
You know what I mean. Higbee, Cook, Henry, Noah Fant. There was still a lot of tight ends left in this league to take Goddard where you took him, but for the most part, Kenny Galladay, DJ Chark, I love that. Christian McCaffrey, Lev Bell, Kareem Hunt. I like that as a three-headed monster with Jordan Howard and Duke Johnson as your bench guys. I don't think that's superb, but that's not bad. For me, there's really no weakness in this team. So Kyler Murray, I think, is a top 5 guy. If anything, he probably maybe drops to 6 or 7. But I like this team. I don't really have anything bad to say about this team. It's a solid team. So I'm gonna give this team a solid B.
Yeah, I'm going to go more of a C. Just because of a couple different picks that I am not really thrilled about. First off is the Le'Veon Bell pick, when you still have, the running backs that are available with
Carson,
Gurley, David Johnson, James Conner, all those guys, even Carson, you know what I mean? Maybe not PPR. Obviously, Bell and PPR is going to be, more of a threat, but, just the things that I've heard with Le'Veon Bell and Frank Gore, and we know how much Adam Gase is just a clown when it comes to using the running back. It's that to me is a little bit of a problem there, and there's no way I would have taken Kareem Hunt over Mostert, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton. All those guys are better flex players to me. And even in that 5th round, you could have gotten, one of the top 5 tight ends or one of the top 4 tight ends with Zach Ertz. So, those 2 picks right there really, they stand out to me as picks that definitely could have made your team a ton better, in my opinion. After that, adding your bench depth, I'm not the biggest Duke Johnson fan, even as I understand the idea of drafting, other teams' handcuffs and, because if David Johnson gets hurt, Duke Johnson's the guy. But I just think Duke Johnson stinks. So, to me, he's not necessarily the best depth piece. And then, like we said, you drafted Goddard with Higbee and Cooks and Henry still on the board, Doyle still on the board. I think and Noah Fant, all those guys should have been drafted over Dallas Goedert as your second tight end, because if you roll into it with Gesicki and Higbee, I think you're in a really, really, really good spot at your tight end. So yeah, to me, I would go to C, just because I think that you definitely could have. There's about 3, 4, or 5 picks that could have made your team a ton better.
Yeah, I mean, and I see where Kevin's saying, so I definitely agree with that. But like I said, I'll still give you a B, because I don't think Lev Bell's going to be horrible. I still think he's going to be, right in that number 2 running back range. And I like your 2 starting wide receivers. Mike Gesicki, I do think is going to be a top 12 guy. A lot of people are, drafting him outside the top 12 guys. But, to me, what I saw last year, and, 2 of their weapons, their offensive weapons, basically sitting out this year because of COVID-19, to me, it only leads to the thought that, Mike Gesicki is going to be a guy that is more targeted than less targeted. You're missing. I think I looked it up, and the 2 guys that they lost to COVID, I think they had 98 targets last year between the 2 of them, and those targets got to go somewhere. So I think Mike Gesicki is going to be a big contributor this year on a, let's be honest, on a not so great Miami offense. They're going to need to throw the ball, and Brian Fitzpatrick already has a rapport with this kid. So, You know, as long as Tua comes in when he does get his chance and starts using Mike Gesicki kind of similarly, you know, I could definitely see this being a good year for Mike. So, like I said, good defense, good kicker. The rest of their team is solid. I just, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm tired of being the easy judge, man. I'm gonna start being harsh. I'm gonna start being harsh.
It's time to get hard.
For real. I'm giving out D's and F's. I don't give a damn.
All right, so Big Matt Smith. He was actually going to be on the podcast today to, do his team. We were going to, talk with him for a little bit, but he had an emergency he had to take care of. Wasn't able to get on the podcast today. So, good luck with all that, Matt. And, we'll catch you sometime during the season. All right, so we have Saquon Barkley, Chris Godwin, Chris Carson, Robert Woods, Raheem Mostert, Dak Prescott, Devontae Parker, Evan Ingram, Zach Moss, Tony Pollard, Tyler Higbee, Baltimore Ravens defense, Harrison Butker, Sammy Watkins, Alan Lazard. All right, so I really like your starters. You know what I mean? You got Saquon, Chris Carson, and Mostert. I love that as a, especially because this is a 2-flex league. So, you need, to me, I think you need three good running backs in this league. Paired with Chris Godwin and Robert Woods, I like those two receivers. I'm not the biggest Devontae Parker fan, as you guys know, because I really love Preston Williams, and I just think Preston Williams shined a little harder when they were both healthy. So, Evan Ingram, Kev is more of a fan of than I am, but I like that you backed him up with Tyler Higbee because I do think one of those guys is going to be good on a consistent basis. Zach Moss is a guy that I love getting as my number 4 running back because I just think Zach Moss, if something were to happen to Devin Singletary, I think Zach Moss is a super, super pick. Because Devin Singletary is not the hugest of guys, and Zach Moss, has showed in college that he can stay healthy and carry a big workload, and he's great in the red zone. He's a monster in the red zone. So, for me, Zach Moss is a guy I really, really like getting as my number 4 running back. Tony Pollard, I just kind of think it was a blah pick. I probably would have gone with, somebody else taking the chance on Bryce Love or...
Bryce Love got drafted right before that pick. I was thinking the same
there you
thing.
go.
Yeah,
so, even Chase Edmonds or, Boston Scott or, any of those guys, Jerick McKinnon, I would have rather had any of those guys over Tony. I think Tony is more of a, like a 13th round pick, not a 10th round guy. But yeah, other than that, I really don't have anything bad to say. I'm never going to take my defense in round 12. I'm always going to wait a little bit longer to take my defense because I just think defense and kicker is deep, and I'm not really worried about getting the number 1 defense because, I'm pretty good at calling later round defenses. But yeah, other than that, I really don't have anything bad to say about this team. I would give this team a B+ because I think your quarterback is going to be a top 5 guy. And I think the rest of your team is super solid.
Yep. I'm going to go with a B. I'm not doing the pluses and minuses. I did away with those last podcast, I think. So, yeah, I'm going to go with a B. Frankly, I just, I like Barkley, Carson, and Mostert. Godwin, Woods, Parker. Like, I'm with Steve. I'm not the biggest fan of Devontae Parker, but taking him as your number 3 wide receiver when he could be, if he's as good as he was at the end of last year, if he gained some kind of confidence boost, you know what I mean? That could be really good, because he was excellent in the last, 6 to 8 games last year. Dak is a top 5 guy, or I think I have Dak 6, but either way, he's up there. I love your tight end combination with Ingram and Higbee. I think Ingram has the skills to be the number 1 wide receiver. He just can't, or the number 1 tight end. He just can't stay healthy. But Higbee is a good backup plan because I think Higbee could be good as well. This might even be a situation where you rotate. Like if Higbee's playing the Cardinals, you're going to want to start Tyler Higbee in this, you know what I mean? And getting the Ravens and Harrison Butker, I like Steve said, I mean, you're drafting your kicker and defense early, but I mean, you got a very good defense and a very good kicker. Sammy Watkins, I don't really care about, but you're taking Sammy Watkins and Alan Lazard as your last 2 picks. whatever. I don't think you can go wrong there. I would have liked to see you have a little more wide receiver depth, and that's why you don't take the kicker and defense so early, because now your fourth wide receiver is Sammy Watkins, and if Devontae Parker doesn't pan out like he didn't his first 3 or 4 years of his career, now your second flex spot is going to be a struggle, because Zach Moss, who knows what we're going to get. You may have to start both of your tight ends. It could be something like that, but overall, I just that's the only issue I see, is that your depth at wide receiver is pretty bad. But yeah, like I said, I think your starting lineup is good. I would give your team a B.
Yep. All right, so Team 3 is Fantasy Fun Boys. Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Hopkins, George Kittle, Calvin Ridley, A.J. Brown, James White, Deontay Johnson, Matt Breida, Darrell Henderson, Bryce Love, Carson Wentz, Justin Jackson, Justin Tucker, Mike Williams, and Chicago Bears defense. I like this team. I have no complaints about this team. I would rather have a better number 2 running back than James White. But I think you're super solid at wide receiver. Getting Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and A.J. Brown as your top 3 guys. You're throwing definitely one of those guys in the flex. And then I think you can kind of maneuver around James White and Matt Breida. Whatever running back has the better matchup that week will be your number 2, and maybe the other guy goes in your flex. If Bryce Love ends up panning out and he becomes a starter for the Washington Redskins, you can throw him as your number 2, and then you're switching between James White and Matt Breida in your flex. So you definitely gave yourself some options later on with Henderson and Love. Justin Jackson, I don't think he wins that second job. We actually just heard today that the Chargers were saying that Joshua Kelly is looking good as the number 2 on this team. So I just think he's a more talented guy than Justin Jackson. So, I like this team. I just think I would rather have a better number 2, but I think your wide receivers are super solid, your first 4 guys, and then waiting till Mike Williams, later. I probably don't draft as many running backs in a row that you did. And if I do, then I'm definitely not taking Justin Jackson where you took him. So, I think that hurts your team a little bit. But, I like that you waited on quarterback. It made your depth very good. And it should have been a little bit better if you would have gone in earlier. Where you took Darrell Henderson, I feel like with the the running backs that you ended up getting later, I probably would have just said, I take Matt Breida, and then, I'll go wide receiver, and then, take 2 more running backs, which you kind of did. So instead of taking Darrell Henderson, I think I would have probably rather had, McCole Hardman, Darius Slayton, Emmanuel Sanders, one of those 3 guys. And now your team looks, much better, but, it is what it is. So I'll give you I'm going to give this team, just because I really love the first 3 picks, I'm going to give you a B.
Yeah, you were close to an A for me. If you would have taken AP instead of Darrell Henderson, you would have gotten an A, in my opinion. Especially if you would have had AP and Bryce Love, you would have gotten an A from me. Because first off, you absolutely stole DeAndre Hopkins as the third to last pick in the second round.
You ain't lying.
You know what I mean? So having Kamara, who could be a number 1 running back overall, Hopkins, who could be the number 1 wide receiver overall, Kittle, who could be the number 1 tight end overall. If everything works out right for you, you got the number 1 running back, tight end, and wide receiver. Your team is just on fire. I think Carson Wentz, if his weapons stay healthy, will be a much better quarterback than he was, for fantasy last year. And even if his weapons get hurt again, his floor is kind of like the number 12 quarterback. So, I think you're safe there, especially getting him as late as you did. Your depth at receiver with Ridley, A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, could be really good if Deontay Johnson pans out. I'm not the biggest fan of Mike Williams this year with Tyrod Taylor, but to have him as your second to last pick, kind of whatever. But I am a big proponent of Bryce Love. I do think that Bryce Love is going to see, work eventually. He's probably going to be behind Adrian Peterson to start. But if this team's bad, they're going to want to see what they got in Bryce Love. And I think everybody kind of foresees the Redskins as being a team that's not very good. So, Darrell Henderson, we just discussed him. He's already hurt. We both think that he stinks. Like, I mean, he can get out into space, but yeah, and kind of get free. But they drafted Cam Akers, to be, a round earlier than Darrell Henderson this year, because they obviously saw something in Henderson last year they didn't like, and he's going to have to compete with Malcolm Brown for, goal line work. So, to me, Darrell Henderson, if you could have gotten AP there, or even if you wanted to take a shot on Damian Harris, who we've been hearing great things about. Naeem Hines, we talked about him. He could be a PPR machine with Phillip Rivers. I'm just not the biggest Darrell Henderson fan. And, if you had gone in a different direction, to me, you might have got an A. But, yeah, I'm going to stick with a B.
Yep. All right, so ACAT26 took Ezekiel Elliott, Lamar Jackson, Mike Evans, Mark Ingram, DJ Metcalf, J.K. Dobbins, Will Fuller, Tevin Coleman, Hayden Hurst, Jalen Reagor, Brashad Perryman, Boston Scott, Darrington Evans, Sony Michel, and Curtis Samuel. Yeah, I really, for taking Lamar Jackson in the second round, I like the way your team kind of ended out. I like that you got Mark Ingram as your second guy and then J.K. Dobbins as your third guy, because, I don't really like, you're not going to start J.K. Dobbins if Mark Ingram's getting a whole workload, right? But I like what you did as, your number 3 guy with taking Tevin Coleman, Boston Scott, Darrington Evans, and Sony Michel, because Sony Michel went super crazy late, and they're saying he's going to be ready for week 1. So if Sony comes into the season healthy for week 1 and does something, you know what I mean? You got him in the 14th round. There's literally no, there's no scariness there. If he's not good, you drop him.
Steve is really, really, really hoping Sony Michel becomes very good.
No. Well, yeah, he's talking about our league last year, but I'm so stacked at running back, I don't even care if Sony is good or not. I just took him because I thought he was a good value where I got him. But I do really like that, the Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins. I'm not a big handcuff guy. Normally I don't ever handcuff my guys. I kind of just would rather have a whole lot of depth at running back. But with this situation, as much as this team runs the ball, I think they could both be relevant and good this year. So I don't foresee J.K. Dobbins getting no touches. And like we said, he's going to get touches. Let's just put it that way. And then Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Will Fuller. I love that 3. You know what I mean? And I'm a big Jalen Reagor fan. I love Jalen Reagor. Brashad Perryman, Curtis Samuel, the rest of those guys. But for taking Lamar in the second, which we never, tell people to do. We always tell people to wait on quarterback. For you doing that, I really like this team. So I'm actually going to give this team an A because I like this team a lot. I think you're strong everywhere. Hayden Hurst is the only issue I have with this team. I probably would have taken a different tight end, because like I said, there's still Tyler Higbee. Dallas guy is not a guy I would have taken, but, Tyler Higbee, Jared Cook, Hunter Henry, Noah Fant. I probably would have any one of those guys over Hayden Hurst because I just don't think Hayden Hurst is going to be as good as everybody is saying with the Atlanta Falcons. I think he could have a good year, but I'm not booking it like the way you did. But yeah, other than that, I have no complaints about this team. I'm giving this team I'm going to give you an A.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a B strictly because I really don't know who your second flex is going to be. I mean, I guess it could turn out to be Sony Michel if he winds up being their starter. But you're not going to know about Reagor. Perriman is already being kind of banged up. Curtis Samuel is kind of, he may get trapped behind DJ Moore, McCaffrey, maybe even Robbie Anderson for targets. Tevin Coleman, I think, stinks. So to me, you're going to be kind of trapped at your third flex or your second flex spot. So I don't, not knowing who you're going to start there. I can't give your team an A. I do like you handcuffing Mark Ingram with J.K. Dobbins. I do think that's a good, not a bad idea, because let's face it, Mark Ingram, I think he's going to be the guy. I think that Mark Ingram, is going to see the very same workload he did last year. Like, I don't think Ingram's workload goes down. If anything, it goes up because like we talked about, like this team was beating teams so bad last year that they were literally sitting Mark Ingram in the fourth quarter of games or running him very little in the fourth quarter of games because they didn't need to use him. So, if his work does get cut into, they're going to still be running more because they're going to need to run the ball more because they're not going to blow everybody out the way they did last year. So, if J.K. Dobbins takes that extra work, you're still going to see Mark Ingram getting 220 carries. And if that's the case, he's going to be as good as he was last year. And I don't think that anybody's taking the goal line work away from Mark Ingram. So, to me, I love Mark Ingram, but I do like getting J.K. Dobbins there as his handcuff. It just hamstrings your second flex spot now because you're drafting your handcuff in the 6th round. But other than that, yeah, and plus your tight end. I think Hayden Hurst, if he becomes Austin Hooper 2.0, it's great, but we don't know if that's going to happen. So, if that happens, your team winds up being very, very good. If not, you're going to be searching for a tight end, and we all know the ramifications of that. So, yeah, I'm going to go with a B.
All right. So the next team is Yoink 77 or W77. We have Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, James Conner, David Montgomery, Zach Ertz, Marquise Brown, Jarvis Landry, Christian Kirk, Nicole Hardman, Alexander Madison, Matt Ryan, Anthony Miller, Blake Jarwin, Joshua Kelly, and the Kansas City defense did not take a kicker. So, for me, going as heavy as you did at running back, I don't really like your running backs. So Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler I like, right? I think Austin Eckler will still be good this year. I don't think he'll be as good as he was last year, but I do, I think his carries go up, so, he could be pretty good. But I'm not the biggest James Conner fan because the dude is just always hurt. I think David Montgomery just sucks. I just don't like David Montgomery at all. I love that you guys.
You would have took Mark Ingram there instead of David Montgomery.
Oh yeah, I would love this. Yeah, I would love this much better. Yeah, I would like this much better, much better. But yeah, Zach Ertz. I love that you got him in the 5th round. But your wide receivers, if I had Marquise Brown as my number 1 wide receiver, I would not be very happy with that. Jarvis Landry, I do think is a number 2. Christian McCaffrey, I also believe is
Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk is also a number 2. Well, probably a number 3. Nicole Hardman, I don't, if he's better than he was last year and catches, let's say, 20 more balls, then yeah, you're going to be happy with that pick, but we're not 100% sure that's going to happen because actually on the depth chart right now, he's still behind Robinson as the number 4 guy because they still have Sammy Watkins as the number 2. I don't know why. I guess it's just because they pay him so much money and they have Robinson as the slot guy. So, maybe that changes. I don't know. Alexander Madison, you have Cook, so get that 100%. Matt Ryan, I like that quarterback. Anthony Miller, I would probably rather have somebody else a little bit later because I'm not the biggest Anthony Miller, I just don't think a second wide receiver from the Bears is going to be good all year long. Maybe I'm wrong, but so yeah, I really don't get the Blake Jarwin pick. I was kind of looking at it, I'm like, I don't really understand that one. I would probably have taken someone else there. But having been said that, I'm going to give your team I'm going to give it a B minus just because for as many running backs as you took, where you took them, I would have rather have had David Johnson and Mark Ingram. If you take David Johnson and Mark Ingram there, then I'm like, damn, this team is stacked. But Connor and Montgomery, for me, I just not big.
Yeah, see, and the only reason you didn't get an A from me is because of Montgomery over Ingram. That's it. Because I am a James Conner believer. I think Steve thinks that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to suck on offense this year.
Yeah, I just don't think Nick Foles
He's
is gonna
not
be
good
all
with
that great.
Juju. He don't like Deontay Johnson. He don't like Connor. Steve is not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan this year.
No, I
Big
love their
Ben's gonna
defense.
suck.
Yeah, I love their defense. I just don't know if Big Ben's gonna be great.
Um, but
Scares
yeah,
me.
I think Cook is going to have a great year. He needs to prove that should get paid, and he's with Gary Kubiak, who, we know what he did with Arian Foster. I mean, he turns guys that are average talent into superstar running backs because he has that Shanahan system. And Dalvin Cook is a superstar talent and is going to be great this year. I think Cook could be the number one running back. Austin Eckler, same thing as Steve said. I'm not as high on him. I think he's going to regress from last year because he's not going to catch 90 passes. But at the same time, he's going to be good because he is their running back in that system. James Conner, I do think is going to be good. I think he's a very good pick. I mean, comparing him and David Johnson or Todd Gurley, to me is kind of you're basically, for me, I have them ranked. Let's see. I have them ranked Gurley, Connor. I have them ranked Gurley, Connor, Johnson. No. I don't even know where the hell I have David Johnson in my ranks. I think I left David Johnson off my ranks. I'm gonna have to fix that. But yeah, either way, like I'm good. I would have been good with all three of those guys. I don't think that I don't think you're losing a ton. I think they're all, going to be workhorse backs for their team. And if anything, Pittsburgh's probably got the best line of those teams. So, I think Connor could have a good year, and if he resorts back to what he was 2 years ago, when Steve and I said like he wasn't great, he was just a touchdown machine and got a lot of catches. So if that's what he winds up being, you're good. Montgomery, I just think stinks, and Chicago's line is bad. So if you take Mark Ingram there, who's a guy last year that was a number 11 running back in PPR leagues. I understand they drafted J.K. Dobbins, but they're not going to, like a guy that was that good, they're not just going to take off the field. So I think that if you would have gotten Ingram, Zach Ertz, because now, Jarvis Landry to me is your number one. And Jarvis Landry is about as sure of a number two receiver as there is, but you really don't need a number one receiver if you have four stud running backs. So, if you're rolling out, Landry, and then you got to throw Kirk out there, who I think could be good as a secondary receiver. You have McCole Hardman, who I think, if they give him the opportunity to be the number two receiver in Kansas City, he could be great with Patrick Mahomes. Marquise Brown is kind of hit or miss. And so, yeah, I think, I think the receivers that you got, loading up at running back and getting one of those top tight ends, I think the receivers you got are actually very, very, serviceable. So I actually do like that. And having Matt Ryan where you got him in the 11th round, I think, I'm with Steve. I don't know why you took Blake Jarwin there. I would have rather taken the shot there on Brian Edwards, who's the guy we has been talked up. And if you wanted a tight end, maybe, go in a different direction, just because I think that Blake Jarwin, there's, you're basically competing with 4 other guys there for targets. But, to me, and then getting Joshua Kelly and Alexander Madison as the handcuffs, I think was, you really did a good job drafting. I just wish you took Mark Ingram instead of David Montgomery. You would have gotten an A, but your team is definitely a B and an upper end B.
All right. So now it is my team. I took Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, David Johnson, Devin Singletary, Tyler Lockett, T.Y. Hilton, Tariq Cohen, Kerryon Johnson, Adrian Peterson, John Brown, Aaron Rodgers, N'Keal Harry, Braylon Edwards, Daniel Carlson, and the Rams defense. All right, so for me, I'm not really going to grade my team. Yeah, I'm not really going to grade my team. I I'll just get my 2 cents real quick, and then I'll let Kev go ahead. I did not have Devontae Adams in any draft up to this point, and I knew in the second round I would not get him, so I decided to take him there. Travis Kelce, I thought was a steal at 2.7. And then I went heavy running back wide receiver. And I was happy to get Aaron Rodgers and, the 6th pick in the 11th round. And I think I have good depth. Daniel Carlson, I wasn't a bad, it wasn't an auto pick. I clicked the wrong button and ended up picking him. I ended up dropping him and picking up.
You would have gotten an A if you picked a better kicker.
Yeah, I ended up dropping him and picking up Jake Elliott, but by accident I picked up Daniel Carlson, and the Rams defense to me was the best of defense available. So I like my team. It's all right.
Yeah, I really, really like your team. Drafting Devontae Adams, first as the number 1 wide receiver. I mean, obviously, there's the argue back and forth who to take number 1. Most people would take Thomas. You took Adams. I have no problem with that. I have Adams ranked as my number 1 receiver. Kelce, I think, is the number 1 tight end. Getting David Johnson, Devin Singletary, I think is a good deal, for your top 2 running backs, because Singletary was game breaking last year, and if David Johnson winds up just being better than Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde ran for 1,000 yards. So is it that insane to say that, David Johnson can run for 1,200, 1,300? I don't. I think that David Johnson is clearly more, more talented than Carlos Hyde is. Tyler Lockett is your number 2 receiver, is awesome, especially in the 5th round. I think that's a steal. T.Y. Hilton, I think that, as a third wide receiver is outstanding. You have very good, your top 3 wide receivers are very good. And then, Tariq Cohen, he could be a PPR machine if they treat him the way they did 2 years ago, which I think they have to. Kerryon Johnson, who I think is going to be the starter. Adrian Peterson, who to start the season is probably going to be the starter. I think you have good running back depth to start the season. And, getting John Brown, N'Keal Harry, Bryan Edwards, gives you good wide receiver depth. Aaron Rodgers in the 11th round. I would have rather taken Drew Brees. I have Drew Brees higher, but you have Devontae Adams. So pairing Drew Brees and pairing Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, those touchdowns are basically getting you double points. So, for me, I really, really do. I really like your team. Honestly, I don't want to give you an A just because I don't want to give everybody else a B and then you an A. So I'm going to give you a B. But
all right.
I would just say the reason why I don't really have one. I would probably just always say because Drew Brees. I'd rather have Drew Brees than Aaron Rodgers.
There you go. All right. So Stats Matt is Clyde Edwards. I actually like this team. It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Aaron Jones, Allen Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Cortland Sutton, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, Antonio Gibson, Darius Slayton, Henry Ruggs III, Jared Cook, Daniel Jones, TJ Hawkinson, Philadelphia Eagles defense, and Zane Gonzalez. Right off the bat, that's right around where CEH is going, so I don't think you reached on him. It's actually the first time in a lot of drafts that I've been in that people did not reach on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I had him go in the 3rd round of another draft that I did. We had him go in our third overall pick. Yeah, 3rd overall pick. We had him go in the 4th pick, the 5th pick in some of these leagues. And I think right around where you took him, I'd rather have Michael Thomas, but I get CEH over the other guys. I don't have it ranked that way, but like I said, I don't think it's a reach at this point. And then Aaron Jones is a very good number 2 running back to have. Jonathan Taylor, if he becomes the number 1 running back for the Colts, he's going to be amazing early on. Getting the running backs that you have in the wide receivers you have in Robinson, Sutton, Gallup, and Brandon Cooks, I love that 4. I think that 4 is super nice to have. You know, it gives you depth, and you know, you can kind of pick what guy you want to start every week, really. You know, Allen Robinson will be in your starting lineup every week, and then those three guys you can just kind of swap in and out. And I do think Brandon Cooks is going to be very good this year. I know a lot of people are down on him because of his season last year, but I love Brandon Cooks as a player and as a person, and everything about the guy. So, you know, Antonio Gibson, honestly, I would not have taken him where you took him. I would have taken Kerryon Johnson. I would have taken Matt Breida. I would have taken, you know, even Zach Moss, the upside of Zach Moss at that point. There's a couple of guys I definitely would have taken over him. But like I said, you know, you have three really good running backs that I like to, you know, in the beginning. Darius Slayton, Kevin knows, is the bane of his existence. So getting him where you got him, I like. Henry Ruggs the third. You know, if he ends up, you know, being the slot guy and terrorizing the league as with his speed in the middle, that could be a great pick in 10. I like that you took Jared Cook and TJ Hawkinson as your wide receiver. I mean, as your corner. I can't even speak. As your tight ends, because I'm not 100% sold on Jared Cook, and I'm also not 100% sold on TJ Hawkinson. So I think both of these guys, you know, you can swap them in and out for matchups. Daniel Jones in the 12th is you know, to me, a great pick. And then the Eagles defense and Zane Gonzalez. So, you know, there's really no weakness on your team, really. I think I would have rather had one more running back instead of just having four guys. I would have rather had five. But, you know, that's me just picking straws. You can, you know, you can pull a trade off with the players you have on this team. So for me, I am going to give your team a B. Solid B.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I think it's a B team. I think you know, your starting running backs, CEH, Aaron Jones is great. Getting Allen Robinson, who's a very consistent wide receiver, is good. Good, you know, third pick is a, you know, good number one wide receiver to have, especially when you have those two running backs. Jonathan Taylor, I think, you know, the struggle with having Taylor this early is that you don't know if you're going to be able to start him this early. So, you know, for me, that's kind of I'm in this very similar predicament in the league that we just drafted last night with Steve. So, you know, that's an issue that I have, but I think that Jonathan Taylor is, when he's inserted, is going to be a monster. So, you know, that's just kind of, you're playing the waiting game with Taylor. Sutton, Gallup,
I don't think it's
Cooks,
a long waiting game, if I'm being honest, but go ahead.
I hope not.
Yeah, I really don't think so. I just watching tape on Jonathan Taylor. I did more film watching today on Jonathan Taylor, and I just, you know, on my break I was watching Jonathan Taylor. That dude is, he's good.
Sutton, Gallup, Cooks, Slayton, Ruggs could be very good. I am not a fan of Antonio Gibson. I would have rather had Adrian Peterson or Bryce Love before Gibson. You know, I don't think, you know, I think Gibson is probably one of the most overhyped players in fantasy. I love Jared Cook, TJ Hawkinson combo. Like, to me, that's the perfect like one of the perfect combos to grab. You get a guy who could be a touchdown machine in Jared Cook. You know, not really a ton of upside, but you know he could be 6 to 8 touchdowns. But then you get a guy with a boatload of upside in TJ Hawkinson, who we're actually hearing is destroying the Lions secondary or safeties. So, you know, to me, your tight end combo is probably, you know, that's something that you strive for when you're drafting tight ends this late, is to get, you know, a serviceable guy that, you know, has touchdown upside, and then have the blow up guy like Hawkinson. Daniel Jones as your only quarterback could be your problem. You know, I mean, Daniel Jones' problem is that he was really only good last year against bad teams. You know, so if he's, and to be honest, we talked about this when we did the strength of schedule. Like, the Giants start the season off very, very tough. Like, the Giants' beginning of their schedule is rough. So starting Daniel Jones may be a problem for the first 4 or 5 games of the season, and you may wind up having to play the quarterback carousel if he doesn't live up to his potential. So that's you know, a major issue I would have your team. But yeah, I would go with, I'm going to say, I'm going to go with a C. All right. And mainly because of your quarterback, and because frankly, Gibson, as only having 4 running backs, one of them being Gibson and the other being Jonathan Taylor, like if one of your running backs goes down early with CEH or Jones, you're screwed in my opinion. So, you know, that's the reason why if I was, having seen Kerryon Johnson still sitting there, Adrian Peterson still sitting there, I think that you needed to get a little bit more security with that 4th running back, knowing that you took Taylor. It's actually something that I think I said the same thing yesterday. I think I needed a little more security with my draft after I took Taylor. I needed to, shore up a running back that I knew was going to, play. And Antonio Gibson, we don't know if he's going to start. We don't know how much time he's going to get. And taking him in the 9th round when you could have taken, or in the 8th round when you could have taken Kerryon Johnson, who we know is going to see work. We could have taken Adrian Peterson. He's going to see work. Just Zach Moss. He could be a touchdown machine. I like his upside more. So yeah, your running back depth and your quarterback is just really going to hurt you.
Yep. All right, so we're going to speed this up a little bit, guys, because we're already at an hour. So.
Oh, wow. Are we?
Yeah, it went crazy fast. I don't even know how it went that quick. But, all right, so we got
a lot of news.
Yeah, a lot of news. So we got Toon Chi. He's got Michael Thomas, Patrick Mahomes, Todd Gurley, Odell Beckham, DeAndre Swift, Stephon Diggs, Rob Gronkowski, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Dillon. He has Brandon Ayuk, Hunter Henry, Pittsburgh Steelers defense, Josh Allen, LaShawn McCoy, and Jason Myers. So for me, I love.
Can I break this one down first?
Yeah, good.
You get a D. Straight up, bro. I mean, look, I know you got Mahomes and Thomas, but Gurley as your number 1. I guess when you draft your wide receiver and quarterback that early, Gurley as your number 1 running back isn't terrible. The only issue with Gurley is that he's been seen limping in the locker room. So then on top of that, your number 2 running back is DeAndre Swift. Your number 3 running back is A.J. Dillon, and your number 4 running back is LaShawn McCoy. Like, you have 0 running back depth. Absolutely none. And then you took Odell Beckham, a guy I'm not high on. You took Stephon Diggs, a guy that I've came around on, but still I'm not as high on. CeeDee Lamb you hope is good, but he's competing with targets. You took Gronk as your number 1 tight end. I do like you backed him up with Henry, but Gronk in the 7th round when you have no running back depth, like you completely screwed yourself because I don't think Gronk is going to be as good as a 7th round pick. When you could have taken Tariq Cohen, who we talked about, is PPR guy, Kerryon Johnson, all those guys that were still sitting there. Jordan Howard even, you know what I mean? Jordan Howard would have been the perfect pick for you because he may not be good in Miami, but he has touchdown upside. And you need a second with DeAndre Swift. You don't even know if he's going to play. He's already banged up and hurt. And, we don't know how much time he's going to see fighting with carries with Kerryon Johnson. So to me, like, you may not have a running back 2 and you only have 4 running backs. And to top it off, I don't really like your I'm not huge on the wide receivers. I'm not really that high on the wide receivers that you've taken, and other than Michael Thomas, and I'm not really high on your tight ends. So to me, this team is rough.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Kev. I don't give D's very often, but this team is. It would have been so much better if you just did not go Patrick Mahomes in the 2nd round, because then you could have gotten Aaron Jones. You would have had Michael Thomas, Aaron Jones, Todd Gurley. That's much better. Even Austin Eckler. If you're super high on Austin Eckler, I understand that. Hey, it is what it is. But the Patrick Mahomes pick really, really did you hard. OBJ, OBJ, we know the talent of OBJ. I just don't know if him and Baker Mayfield will ever have a very good rapport with each other. And they were talking, there was a little bit of chatter coming out of, Browns camp that OBJ really doesn't want to be on this team. I don't know how true that is. I'm not going to, say, oh yeah, he definitely said he doesn't want to be here, but rumblings come from somewhere. DeAndre Swift as your number 2 running back. Yeesh. Yeesh. A.J. Dillon as your number 3. Yeesh. And then LaShawn McCoy, who actually might get cut. It was actually said that he might get cut today or yesterday. I was reading that, they may, if he doesn't show more in training camp, why hold him? So he may not even be on that team. Yeah, I just don't like what you did here. I really don't like. And another reason why I'm giving you a D is because you took Patrick Mahomes in the 2nd, bro, but then you took Josh Allen in the 13th when you have no running backs. Like, try for something. Lamar Miller. You know what I mean?
I didn't even notice
Sony
that.
Michel.
I didn't even pay attention to the Josh Allen pick, but yeah that's...
Yeah, like, you have no running backs. Like, I would have said, Sony Michel, we're hearing he's hurt, but hey, maybe he becomes the starter and I have a number 2 running back. Because at this point, you don't have a number 2 running back. You know what I mean? There's no one on your team that you can be like, oh yeah, that's a number 2 running back. So, yeah, this is rough for me. This is a team where if you do what you did, you can't go the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 12th round. You can't go a second quarterback in the 13th round and then completely bomb it with a LaShawn McCoy pick in the 14th round. I think from round 11 on, now I'll give you around 12 on, they were all horrible picks. Pittsburgh Steelers defense, I like getting a good defense later, but picking Pittsburgh's defense when you don't have a number 2 running back is rough, dude. Like, you needed to just stack your team with running back, period. Because if you believe that Odell Beckham's going to be good and Stephon Diggs, I love CeeDee Lamb, those 4 guys, if you believe all 4 of those guys are going to be super, super good this year, right? Then why are you not just loading up on running back? Because you're weak at running back. I don't understand it. I think you overthunk it, and good luck to you, sir.
Yeah, and to be honest, here's the thing. You had 3 receivers already when you took CeeDee Lamb, and Kerryon Johnson's right there, and you have Swift. So if you were going to take Gronk, I get it. All right, you take Gronk, whatever. I wouldn't have, but you take Gronk. When you come around and you have 2 running backs, you need to take another running back, and Kerryon is sitting there, and you have Swift. Lock up that backfield. There's no reason that you should draft CeeDee Lamb and not lock up that backfield. But, whatever. I mean, like I said, not the highest on that team.
Yep. All right. So the next team is Chart JE 13. You got Julio Jones, Kenyon Drake, Juju Smith-Schuster, Leonard Fournette, Terry McLaurin, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, Latavius Murray, Damian Harris, Sterling Shepard, Drew Brees, Jack Doyle, Chris Herndon, Greg Zuerlein, and the Tennessee defense. See, this is what happens when you wait on quarterback and you wait on tight end and you wait on kicker and defense. You're able to load your team up with wide receivers and running backs, have a good stable of guys, and then just wait and get the guys you want. You know what I mean? Jack Doyle, I think, is a serviceable guy. Chris Herndon, we've heard a lot of good things out of the Jets camp, that him and
Darnold.
Yeah, him and Darnold are just, locking up. Which is great. Greg Zuerlein's a great kicker. Tennessee's defense, I think, is serviceable. And the rest of your team, you're stacked. You got Julio, Juju, Terry McLaurin, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd. I'm not the biggest fan of AJ just because he's always freaking hurt, and he pisses me off because I know how talented he is and I know how good he is. But with McLaurin, Juju, and Julio in front of him, you get AJ, and if he blows up, now you got 4 amazing wide receivers. Tyler I love Tyler Boyd. You know what I mean? I think he's just he's as safe a pick as you can get. The dude has been great every year of his career, basically, other than his rookie year. Sterling Shepard in the 10th, love that pick because Sterling Shepard is your 5th running back. I mean, your 5th wide receiver, and your 6th wide receiver, and he could be great. Damian Harris, Latavius Murray, I like those. I like Damian Harris. We've heard some good things out of Patriots camp. So if he ends up being the starter, hey, you got a nice running back in the 9th round. Latavius Murray, hey, Cooks seems to always get banged up in the year, and if Cook misses time, Latavius Murray is going to be a huge factor. Kenyon Drake, Leonard Fournette. I think you got two solid running backs, and that you got a bunch of wide receivers to throw in your two flex spots. So, I really like this team. I'm gonna give this team a B plus. I like this team a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to go to B. Frankly, waiting on quarterback and tight end the way you did, I think that you wound up with two good ones at tight end. Doyle, I think, could be ultra safe, although he did just have a neck injury the other day, so you got to pay attention to what happens there. But Herndon is definitely a tight end with upside. Drew Brees, to me, is my number 5 quarterback. Getting him in the 11th round was a steal. I would have taken Bryce Love instead of Sterling Shepard, knowing that you had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 receivers already, and you weren't as loaded up at running back. I would have taken a shot on Bryce Love instead of Sterling Shepard, just to load up your running back depth a little bit more. And, hopefully one of those guys, whether it was Harris or Love, popped. But that's the only thing I really can say. I mean, getting Fournette in the 4th round could be a steal. I love Julio, Juju, McLaurin, and one of the Cincinnati receivers. I think that your wide receiving core is probably one of the best there is. Between you and Steve, and I would go with yours just because you actually have 4 startable. So. Yeah, I think your wide receiving core is the best, and having Drake and Fournette could be very good. The only thing, like I said, I would have grabbed Bryce Love instead of Shepard because, it would have given you one extra running back that could have popped for you instead of getting Sterling Shepard, who you're probably never going to start.
Yep. All right, so Will9904. That's my buddy Will. So
yeah, I can't wait. He was calling me out, but guess what, Will? I got good news for you.
All right, so he's got Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, Darren Waller, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Jackson, Julian Edelman, Nyheim Hines, the 49ers defense, Chase Edmonds, Michael Pittman Jr., Will Lutz, Lamar Miller, and Austin Hooper. All right, so for me, I really like this team. I'm going to be honest. I like your running backs, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, super safe. You got DJ Moore and Cooper Kupp as your 1 and 2. I really, really like that. Darren Waller as your tight end. I have him as my number 5 tight end, and that's where you got him. So I like that a lot. Russell Wilson, I've already said it. I think could be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football this year if everything falls right for him and he's throwing more passes than he has in the past, which I do think is a thing. Deshaun Jackson as your number 3 I think is but you have Julian Edelman in the very next round, which I really like. The 49ers defense, you went a little early on defense, but you got a really good one. Chase Edmonds, I love that you took that, especially now that we're hearing that we have some
Kenyon Drake.
Kenyon Drake in a walking boot. So that's really nice to have. Michael Pittman Jr., already said it, in a Frank Wright offense could be the touchdown machine. We saw what Mike Williams did a couple years back under Frank Wright in his second year, and he had 10 touchdowns. So Michael Pittman could be the guy, the big wide receiver that they want in the Indianapolis Colts that they wanted for a while now. The Will Lutz, amazing kicker. Lamar Miller, if he ends up taking Sony Michel's job midseason because he is just a better running back, who knows? We'll see. So that's a gamble that is worth taking. And then Austin Hooper in the 15th. If Darren Waller is bad, which I don't see happening, I probably wouldn't have taken a tight end there. I probably would have just thrown another wide receiver or running back on my team, whoever I like best. And I don't know who's available because honestly I'm not going to look, but. I like this team. I have no problem with this team. I think your team is super solid. You're lacking running back depth just a little bit. With Nyheim Hines and Edmonds and Lamar. But I like your wide receivers a lot. I like definitely your 2 starters are great. But I do think you're going to struggle a little bit to fill your flex spots every single week. But other than that, your starters are, super solid. So I'm going to give you a B.
Yeah, I'm going to go to B as well. But this is the thing. Yes, he is a little bit weak at running back depth, but you got Naeem Hines, who I think could be a PPR machine. I talked about him. Lamar Miller, who could be the starter in New England and see good work there, and Chase Edmonds, who is to me is one of the top handcuffs on another team. Like, so if Kenyon Drake goes down, Chase Edmonds jumps into that starting role, and you have a very good starting running back. And that's the difference between his depth and the other team's depth that we talked about, where, he's got a number 2 running back who we don't even know if he's going to start. And then his third and fourth running backs are guys that we don't know how much time they're going to play. There's just this team, Will's team, I think, has a little bit more running back depth. I would have rather, instead of taking Waller, I know getting that tight end there is fine, but I would have much rather taken Ronald Jones or one of those receivers that went in the 6th round, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, maybe not AJ Green, but T.Y. Hilton was still there. So that 5th round pick, I think I would have went with Ronald Jones, but any one of those receivers would have sufficed just to give your team a little more depth, and then take one of those tight ends later on. And definitely, where you drafted the 49ers defense, I would have waited and draft somebody else, anybody else at that point. Don't draft. The Niners defense is one of the best, but taking them in the 10th round, there's just still so much talent on the board. Shepard, Ayuk, Ruggs, John Brown, Jalen Reagor, Bryce Love is another running back that would have added depth to your team there. So, to me, that's the only thing I would have done different. I would have taken Ronald Jones instead of Waller. I definitely would have taken a receiver instead of, in the 10th round, you grab a receiver. You could have grabbed, Jared Cook or Tyler Higbee in the 10th, and then took Ronald Jones in the 5th, and draft your defense in the 14th round, and now your team's looking a little better. But I still go with a B. I do think, I think Deshaun Jackson is going to be good and very start worthy, kind of week in, week out. Edelman, I'm not sure as much, just because I want to see the connection him and Cam have. But I think Naeem Hines is probably going to be a guy he can start week in, week out, if he takes on a little bit of the Austin Eckler role. So, yeah, I'll go with a B.
Yep. All right, so Jack Shandy went Joe Mixon, Miles. I love this team, by the way. I really do like this team a lot. All right, so you went Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, Mari Cooper, Cam Akers, Marlon Mack, Marvin Jones, Tom Brady, Keyshawn Vaughn, Deebo Samuel, Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, Malcolm Brown, New England Patriots defense, and Cam Newton. I'm not taking Cam with Brady. I probably just, honestly, I wouldn't have taken Brady. I would have probably just waited for Cam later, because if you take Cam, you would have got him. You got him in the last round, second to last pick in the last round. So I'd have been cool with that. And, but other than that, I can't say anything bad about your team. I probably would have taken 2 tight ends with Noah Fant, because I just don't, me personally, I just don't think Noah Fant is all that great. I think he's a big play, and he's going to have big games for you, but he's not going to be consistent every single week. And I hate that in the tight end, which is why I go for a top 4 guy all the time. But for me, Mixon, Miles, Cam, Marlon Mack, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Malcolm Brown. You have plenty of running back depth with a really good wide receiver core. Adam Thielen, Mari Cooper, Marvin Jones, Deebo Samuel, Jerry Jeudy. Love that. I don't have anything bad to say at all, other than, I probably wouldn't have taken Brady where you did, and I would have taken either, if it was me, I probably would have taken, in that round, I probably would have just taken Kerryon Johnson or Julian Edelman. And been happy with that foursome at wide receiver. Even Christian Kirk, I would have been happy with there. But, other than that, I probably, you could have waited 3 rounds later and got Drew Brees, and then you would have been, this team would have been an A for me, no doubt. So yeah, I will give you a B. I'm going to give you a B+. I like this team.
Yeah, I'm going to go to B as well. Keyshawn Vaughn, to me, is the one that stands out just because I'm not as high on Keyshawn Vaughn. I would have rather taken somebody else. I think Keyshawn Vaughn is a wasted pick. I don't think he's going to see any time on the field if everybody else stays healthy. But getting Joe Mixon and Miles Sanders, I absolutely love that. It's like my number 7 and 8 running backs. I would have taken Cooper Kupp over Cooper. If you have Thielen and Cooper Kupp, I think you're, great. But then I probably would have taken Ronald Jones over Cam Akers. But that to me, you got to start the season, you're going to have 4 pretty good running backs because I do think Cam's going to be more of the guy there. He may lose some of the touchdown work to Malcolm Brown, but I do think that 20-20 is going to be Cam Akers. Marlon Mack, I think, is going to be the starter at least for the first quarter of the season. Getting Marvin Jones who is one of the most consistent receivers, at that point in the 7th round is great. I mean, you can't foresee Cam lasting till the last round. If you could foresee that, what I mean? You definitely don't take Brady there, but to me, even taking Brady isn't terrible. I mean, I have Breeze higher, so I have Wentz higher. I would have probably waited on quarterback with the way this draft went.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Looking at it, like
advantageous.
You could have waited on quarterback. Like these guys really waited. So yeah, that's the thing. Like I would have just waited on Brady. Wouldn't have taken Keyshawn Vaughn. I would have went with somebody else, Bryce Love. I would have taken Madison or Pollard. I just think Keyshawn Vaughn's a wasted pick. But I think your wide receiver depth is great. With Debo and Judy, and then you have very good running backs. To me, yeah, this you know what? I'm going to change my mind. Oh no, I'm going to go with a B because Noah Fant. If you would have drafted somebody behind Fant, maybe Jack Doyle instead of Jerry Jeudy, if you would have drafted Jack Doyle instead of Jerry Jeudy, and given somebody that was a little safer behind Fant, you might have got an A. But the only reason you got a B is because Noah Fant, like Steve said, I do think he's a very good player, but he is a breakout guy, and if he does not break out, you're going to be playing the tight end carousel.
Yep. All right. So last player is Show Nuff once again, and he's got Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, Melvin Gordon, Mark Andrews, Ronald Jones, Keenan Allen, Phillip Lindsay, Deshaun Watson, Emmanuel Sanders, Preston Williams, Golden Tate, Jerick McKinnon, Young Hoo Koo. He listens to this podcast, boy. He's religious. Los Angeles Chargers, and T. Higgins. So for me, I'm gonna give this team an A. I love this team.
He's getting an A from me.
Yeah, I like this team a lot.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, this is a good team. I mean, your running back depth is awesome. Josh Jacobs, Melvin Gordon, Ronald Jones, Phillip Lindsay, Jerick McKinnon. I do think Jerick McKinnon is going to be good. I like your running back depth. Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, Emmanuel Sanders, Preston Williams, Golden Tate. Tyreek Hill's a freak. Keenan Allen, I think, is a top 15 guy because I love the guy. Emmanuel Sanders, I love as the number 3 wide receiver because I just think he is awesome and he's going to be thrown to a lot, which is why I'm lowering Jared Cook in my rankings because I just do think that Emmanuel Sanders is going to get a lot of touches in this, a lot of targets and touches. Preston Williams, I profess my love for Preston Williams 1,000 times, which is why Mike took him, the son of a bitch. Golden Tate, super solid guy, getting in the 11th round. Love that. Jerick McKinnon, we've talked him up a bunch. He basically took the pairing of Kevin's 2 defenses defense and kicker that he's always getting in every single league.
Just got him last night.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's Kev's pair. And then, T. Higgins is an upside play at the last pick. So, yeah, I think you got one of those top 4 tight ends like we preach. You got running back depth. You have wide receiver depth. You have a great quarterback in Deshaun Watson in the 8th round because you waited. And you still have depth in every single position. So, I like this team. It's an A for me.
Bro, how did you guys let this happen? No, seriously, I mean... all right, so you have the Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, I think is a great start. I may have gone Sanders there instead of Tyreek Hill, but either way, Tyreek Hill, you're getting a top 5 wide receiver. You get the Broncos backfield, which I think is going to be good. You might even be able to start both of them some weeks. Getting a top 5 tight end and then getting Deshaun Watson in the 8th round. Deshaun Watson in the 8th, bro. That's the steal of the draft. Deshaun Watson in the 8th round is the absolute steal of the draft. I don't know how he goes that late, but yeah, you got a top 5 quarterback, a top 5 tight end. You have, a running back with a ton of upside, a top 5 wide receiver. The Broncos backfield, which has been good. Ronald Jones, how much I love him. Keenan Allen, we just talked about him the other day. I've kind of risen on him a little bit more than I have, just because I do think that he's just that good of a receiver and can get open. And then your last flex spot, if Phillip Lindsay is splitting time, you can throw him in there. If not, you got Sanders, Preston Williams, Golden Tate. Like, Golden Tate's going to be good like in that offense. Like, Jerick McKinnon, I think eventually is going to be good. T. Higgins as a dart throw in the last round, I think is spectacular. I think everything fell to you so perfectly. So perfectly. So yeah, this team's an A. Getting Deshaun Watson in the 8th round with having Mark Andrews, like, you have a top 5 tight end and quarterback, and you waited on the quarterback technically. Like, yeah, man, you have great wide receiver depth, great running back depth, and you're solid at your tight end. You're set at your tight end and quarterback. And like Steve said, you have my kicker in defense. So I literally draft him just so I can yell Young Ho every time he kicks. Young Ho. Even though that's not how you say it, I know. I just draft him for that reason. But yeah, so this team I love. This is an A team.
Yes, sir. All right, and that's the podcast. We went a little long today, guys, but hey, these listener leagues are a whole lot of fun for us, and we like to break down and give you guys the fair share of breakdowns, because we're not going to be doing another breakdown of these leagues for a long time. So we give a nice long breakdown so that you guys can enjoy it, and our listeners seem to enjoy it too.
Yeah, I think we only have one more analyst league. I don't know if you're going to do, offer any more podcast leagues, but
I'm done with podcast leagues.
So there you go. We got one more analyst league, which we broke down one the other day. The one we're looking forward to drafting is a tight end premium, which is a little bit different. I don't think I really hear too many people talk about tight end premium leagues, which is where tight end gets 1.5 a catch, making them a whole lot more valuable. But yeah, so that's it. So we're going to have some new content coming up.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. But yeah, that's it for tonight's podcast. And until next time, remember, check us out on our website, www.cheatcodesports.com. It's www.cheatcodesports.com. We have our ranks up there. We have articles that come out weekly. We have the cheat codes. Player projections. It's a shit ton of information. Let us know, give us some feedback. And yeah, until next time, peace out, guys.
Peace.